Hello, artists. Today I want to talk to you about paper resists using underglazes. What you're going to need for this, you might want your sketchbook for reference for imagery that you like. You want a pot that is at the leather hard stage, more or less. Probably a palette, some paintbrushes, some newsprint paper, and your underglazes. You can do this with colored slips as well. A lot of these can be applied with glaze also, but these techniques specifically, I'm going to be talking about their use with underglaze. All right, so one thing I love to do is to go back and reference things that I've drawn in my sketchbook. They can be good or bad. But so like here's a bad watercolor, but I like this design. So I kind of modify it here and think about how I want to use that. So later I'll show you how to like create a whole design and transfer it to your pot. Today we're going to talk about some other paper resist methods using newsprint. Another thing that's really helpful is to have a piece of foam or a little plastic or something that you can scrunch up to hold your pot on its side without it rolling away. All right, so what I have here is I had taken a piece of newsprint, folded it in half, and then cut some parts out of it. So here are the little hearts. This gives me a stencil, which is this shape inside the paper, little negative space. And then this little positive space that comes out of it is called a frisket. So these are applied in different ways. Wherever you have the paper, you're not going to get glaze, right? So if I set this guy down here and then paint it in with my underglaze, I am not going to have it going where the paper is. All right, I'm gonna do a little prep here. I'm wetting the pot and I'm gonna wet the paper a little bit as well. You can also do this with a damp brush. This gives you a nice crisp line where you're gonna put your underglaze. You see some color on here. That's because I've used this before, but I let it dry out and now I can use it again. All right, so I put a little bit of yellow underglaze. This is the Mako Fundamentals Bright Yellow. All right, and I'm gonna, so I brush from the outside in to minimize how much glaze is then, underglaze is kind of tucking under the paper. To get sort of a transparent effect, you can do one layer. If you want it to be more opaque, I would do 2 or 3. All right, and then I'm gonna let that dry a little bit. There's a little lump there I'm gonna try to work out. All right, and so that's our stencil. Once this dries, I'll know because the underglaze is not shiny anymore. I can peel this up and reveal that shape. I can also apply the underglaze with something called a frisket. So again, that's the negative space you cut out of your stencil. And these are fun too. So I'm gonna get a little red on here. We're gonna do a little Incarnate Word Academy color scheme. All right, there's no need to put a lot of underglaze in your palette. That's probably actually more than I need for this decorating session. All right, so again, I'm gonna give this a little spritz so it sticks. And if I need to, I can add a little bit more water on the top. Again, you can use a damp paintbrush instead if you don't want to get it too wet. This pot was drying since yesterday when I trimmed it, so I'm not too worried about overhydrating it. All right, so if I'm going to leave that, then I'm going to start from the paper out. One thing I might do if I wanted a lot of heart shapes that show the clay body, but maybe I want the rest of it red, is apply all of those and then take a larger brush and apply more underglaze. I'm just going to kind of go for like a painterly effect here. All right. And we are going to fast forward to when I can remove these. All right, so this has dried a bit. It's not completely dry. You can still see a little bit of sheen in that underglaze, but I think it's ready to pull off. And you can see that nice crisp line. If you get a little overflow and you want to scrape that off, you can just get any tool and kind of make little micro adjustments. For this guy, you'll have to try to figure it out where you can get under here. I often use an X-Acto knife, but I don't have one handy. All right, there we go. All right, and then you can see again that nice crisp outline. All right, I hope you have fun working with paper resist stencils and friskets.